Parry and Riposte. Greetings fellow hunters, it's FiOth coming to you with a quick guide demonstrating the basics of parrying. In this episode we will mostly focus on parrying in PvE, meaning we'll get a basic understanding of how things work when we're trying to parry enemies that are in the environment, not actual players. So we will take it step by step towards understanding how to parry faster things and which tools are preferable when you're trying to parry specific enemies under specific circumstances. First and foremost, if you are not very accustomed to using firearms in Bloodborne and you just want to get the hang of it in the beginning, I suggest the Hunter Blunderbuss as your initial weapon. In case of the Blunderbuss, as you can see here, even at +6, the damage is abysmal. You really can't do much to increase the damage of this firearm. It's the same things with Ludwigs and specific other firearms that are supposed to stagger and counter enemies at variable distances but not actually damage them. Good thing about the Hunter's Blunderbuss is the fact that its spread is so huge, even things going under your reticule, under your area of attack, will be hit by at least one of the pellets, meaning you will actually be able to pull off the counter, the parry, even if your enemy is fast moving or rolling or trying to avoid your shots altogether. It works pretty well in PvP as well. It's surely a beginner's firearm that can be utilized by masters to pull off some crazy ripostes and counters, but for the time being we're mostly using it because it gives you an advantage when it comes to parrying things a little sloppily. Like, this is not a guide for the masters, I have to say. It's for people who try to get the hang of it, so we will take it with the Blunderbuss as a stepping stone. So don't focus on the damage of it, you have to make sure you get the timing right, and when it comes to timing in Bloodborne, it goes back to the roots. Going back to the roots meaning we return to the formula used in Demon Souls and in Dark Souls 1. It's 100% a last minute thing here. So if you're close up, as you will be with the Blunderbuss that has an abysmal range, apart from the damage, you will not have to take into account the range of the shot as you would have if you were using the Evelyn, for example, that is one of the longest range guns in the game. With the Blunderbuss you are pretty sure that by the moment you take a shot, it will hit whatever is in front of you in a cone, so there's no taking into consideration the actual distance between you and the target. The only thing you have to manage is keeping your cool up to the final moment just before the enemy hits you. I have to underline here that the last possible moment is not the moment when the enemy raises his weapon to attack. Excluding specific cases of really slow and predictable enemies, it is the moment just before the enemy makes impact, and because of that, in Bloodborne there are still cases where pulling off a successful counter will get you hit in the process, and that's perfectly fine if you have high health and you just want to trade blows with the enemy and regain your health by rallying through the riposte, the visceral attack mechanic. But as I will be showcasing in a moment, you can pretty much get killed in the process of countering an enemy if your timing is just a tad off. So without further ado, let's move on to some actual demonstration. First and foremost, things that can go wrong. Here you can see me getting tossed into the air whilst I actually stagger the enemy successfully, and here I get damaged again before I can pull off the visceral. Timing is always essential when trying to parry the enemy. Many things can go wrong even when you try to parry lesser enemies. Here these peasants damage me just a bit before I can pull off the visceral attack. It doesn't seem like a big deal when you're playing at these levels, but in the beginning of the game or in subsequent playthroughs, any one of these hits can lead to a death. Here the effect is even more subtle. The torch barely touches me before I pull off the counter-attack, restoring my health. Again, under certain circumstances this can lead to a death. It goes without saying that some enemies' counter windows are much more precise and demanding than your average peasants. Here in the Monastery of Menses, the enemies require pinpoint precision, and here as you can see I still get damage while I pull off the counterattack. Another thing that can go wrong is overshooting the enemy mid-animation when using any weapon other than the Ludwig's or the Blunderbuss. You always have to take into consideration the enemy's height. Moving on to enemies you should try to practice on. These half-beastmen in the first area are very good examples since they are so predictable and strong with their attacks. My personal favorites are the monks spread throughout the game world. You can find them in the Cathedral Court for the first time, and after their initial calling for their mates after they spot you, every move they make can be countered with the pistol and then visceral attacked. This goes for every variant excluding the ones standing outside the Grand Cathedral with the cross-like weapons. Those should not be attempted unless you've gotten a better understanding of the mechanics. Here you can see me going up against two of those. The initial visceral attack throws the enemy off balance, leaving him open just for a sec so I can gather myself and move in for the next counter. Another prime example of enemies that seem intimidating at first but are very easy to parry and counter are the henchmen with the bricks. Just stand your ground, don't lose your head and wait until the brick comes down to land the counter and then move on for the visceral. This covers my basic guide for riposting in Bloodborne. I will be coming back with boss counters and PvP strategies. Until then, stay frosty, be well and strive for perfection, people. See you.